Welcome back once again to the You Should Get a License podcast edition. This is Rod Powell. This is your number one source for information, education, inspiration on the most underrated career opportunity in business today. That is a career in the financial services and the insurance industry. And today, we have, just a spark plug, like a ball of energy, a little fireball, in this business, really doing some great things. Great, social media presence where she's really engaging and educating the people on financial education and financial literacy. I want to welcome to the You Should Get a License podcast, Lady T, the financial bee, Miss Tina Carter. Tina, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Yes. No, excited to have you here. I was just really not just impressed, but also just energized by your energy when we first met, over the summer at a conference. And, I wanted to, really just kind of share some of that with our listeners. At the time, you've been in the business for some time, actually on the corporate side, starting there in the Medicare space and then transitioning with your own agency full time. So I just thought this is just a phenomenal story, to share. So, this platform, You Should Get a License, is really for individuals. I want to make sure we got stable connection to make sure I'm good on this end. It's really for individuals who have either just started, in the industry, really kind of getting some insights. Maybe it's on a part-time basis, or maybe they're in the midst of conversation where they haven't really gotten licensed yet, but they're in the process, or maybe it's a consideration. Or, it's for people who maybe been in the industry a while and really just kind of listening to what some other people are doing, kind of listening to some other experiences and saying, hey, maybe this is something I can implement, maybe something I can add to my business, because there's so many different market segments, as you have referenced, as you're aware of, especially considering your background. So as we get going here, what line of business, what market are you in? What does Tina Carter focus on a day-to-day basis?
I like final expense. Final expense for me is really my niche. The process is very easy, the application process, and there's a lot of people who. Hello, can you hear me?
We had some connectivity issues just now as well. You were saying.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to say it again. You were asking me about where my niche. Yeah. Well, final expense. I like final expense because it's a need for everybody, and it's an easy process. The application process is not a long, drawn out medical exam for the prospect, and it's very it's very affordable, for a person who doesn't have a whole lot of money, or they don't have any insurance at all. Final expense is a good place to start. And I like final expense. I have a policy. My son has a policy, and also my husband. So I'm a firm believer in final expense, because it's straight burial insurance. And again, it's if you don't have anything and you just have final expense, then you're protected.
Got you. Okay, so final expense. You mentioned that final expense is burial insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me something. So what's the difference? So because when people hear final expense, they hear burial insurance, they're like, oh, well, I got life insurance, or I can get some life insurance. What's the difference between, life insurance as most would define it, and final expense or burial insurance? What's the difference between those two?
Well, final expense is to bury you. It takes care of your burial needs, if you want to be buried, or if you want to be cremated. And life insurance, although you can use that to bury you, but the true meaning of life insurance is to transfer wealth. And the difference is that with a life insurance policy, it takes about 6 to 8 weeks for it to pay out, where a burial insurance policy can pay out within 48 hours, and you don't need a death certificate.
Got you. So basically, you have access to those funds right away. Obviously, because you're not going to wait 6 to 8 weeks, to bury your loved one. So basically, the final, it's like basically instead of GoFundMe, you should have a final expense policy.
Yes. That's it in a nutshell.
I got you. Okay. Now, you're out in California.
Yes.
Native California.
Yes.
A lot of people move to California. Shoot,
right.
A lot of people moving out of California now, like into Texas. We see people in Virginia now. But your whole family is native, to California. What part are you in? What part is your business based in?
Southern California. I'm in out of Long Beach.
Long Beach.
But my family is longtime residents of Los Angeles.
Got you. Okay. All right. Long Beach. All right.
Yeah.
You know what I think? Long Beach. I think.
Right. Everybody says everybody. Everybody, every time, Long Beach, Snoop Dogg is, is synonymous. But yeah, but I want people to think of Long Beach with insurance, Lady T, the financial B.
There we go, Lady T, financial B. All right. So let me go back before you were Lady T. We're gonna go all the way back. Growing up, in Southern California where it never rains, of course.
Right.
9 years old, 10 years old. What was Lady T at that time? Maybe it's little girl T at that time. I don't know.
Yeah. Baby T.
What was your dream job growing up? What did you what career path were you envisioning yourself being in as an adult?
I would say I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer. My grandmother is a lawyer. My father was he was a paralegal. So I wanted to get into law, and I wanted to be a ballet dancer. I used to dance. I was in a pageant, and so I wanted to be a ballet dancer. And then I transitioned. I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. And it was funny is because when I was in the 6th grade, my 6th grade teacher, she had us write down what we wanted to be when we grew up. And she actually would take us to like whatever field we were in, she would take us to a person who was in that field and talk to us and stuff. So we went to a law school and talking to the professors and things like that. And it was, I've always found the law to be really, really interesting. And then of course, as I grew up and I got into high school, I switched and I wanted to actually be a mortician, where I wanted to,
Here. So we're going from ballerina,
right,
lawyer,
right,
the mortician. Okay, all right.
Yeah. But I wanted to be a mortician because I wanted to own my own funeral home. So I always had those entrepreneurial wheels flowing through me. And just, I just wanted to be that's why I saw myself as having my own funeral home. And so, but of course, life got in the way and things transitioned, and, I got married and got children. And so, and now here I am in the insurance industry. So
recession-proof business. Still recession-proof business.
Yes. And it's funny you say that, because the professions that I wanted to be in were all recession proof. I mean, owning a funeral home is recession proof. People Absolutely. Are going to die no matter what, Yeah. And then also being a lawyer, and sometimes, you may need a lawyer in the middle of recession, you just never know. So
I always got a case.
Right.
So I love it. No, I was saying that, yeah, basically based on, I was mentioning that based on what your career paths have been. You know, you got, you know, the lawyer, the mortician, and it's interesting because I know that your family background, you know, wasn't in law. You were a paralegal too, right? Did you spend some time?
Yeah, I went to school and got a degree in paralegal studies. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get into that, to get my foot in the door. It's really funny because I was applying for different jobs, but I was running into the issue of, yeah, I have this degree, but I don't have any experience. And every job wanted some litigation experience. And then I went to this one law firm and I wanted to just get in the door, just, you know, as a legal clerk or a, it was like a file clerk or something, and just to get my foot in the door. And I was told that I was overqualified. So it, yeah. And so then I went and I started working because I found out that these you know, your corporations have legal departments, you know. So I went to this healthcare company, and I went in, you know, again as an admin just to get my foot in the door. But then when I got in, I realized that their law department was in Sacramento, and it wouldn't have been very efficient for me to, you know, pack up everybody and move, because at the time, you know, my husband works for the post office, and, you know, for a ton of years. And, you know, it just wasn't, it wouldn't have been a good transition for me. So I just kind of put those dreams on the back burner and just focused on where I was, and, you know, went from there. But I still, you know, I found out too that you can use your paralegal skills with doing document preparation, where you, like, if you, for example, you wanted to you needed not legal advice, but you needed, like, you were you had some tenants and you needed to evict them, and instead of going to a lawyer, you could go to a paralegal, and she will prepare the documents for you, and then you just take them to the courthouse and, you know, and file them yourself. So that's another avenue that I can, you know, tap into, document preparation.
Got you.
Mm-hmm.
Got you. Yeah, you got some skills, because I know you have, you know, this isn't even your first, you know, foray into, you know, the field of dealing with finances, because you're in taxes as well, right?
Yes.
So you got the attention to detail, you know, from the legal background, obviously from the family. Then you have, you know, that finance background as well. Then you got the healthcare background. Talk to me about how did you find your way into this industry?
Well, my father was involved. He introduced me to the business. I was with WFG at the time. He had gotten he met Andrea and Rory through, they were doing presentations at the VA. My father is a veteran, and he was also working at the VA hospital at the time. And so he was got introduced to the business, and he came to me with it. And at the time I was kind of like, oh, no, I want to, you know, I want to be, you know, this corporate person, and I just want to keep my head on straight and just, you know, do this whole 9-to-5 thing, right? But he kept on, okay, come to this, go, you know, talk to this person. And he just kept at it, you know, just kept coming at me. And then finally I sat down in front of my mentor now, and, you know, I just, after hearing about it, I realized that I can incorporate insurance with my tax business. Because initially, when I was doing taxes, I was working for Liberty Tax. I wanted like a storefront where I'm doing taxes, I'm doing document preparation, and also I incorporated an insurance component. And I was just kind of, I wasn't really like thinking about like life insurance per se. I was kind of like, okay, insurance, wherever that may look like, I just wanted that. I wanted this storefront where I'm offering that kind of stuff, because I was seeing these storefronts all over the city. They have, taxes. I would see taxes and insurance. And I'm like, man, that could be something that I can do, because taxes is only a season, for say 4 months. And then after that, what else are you doing, to keep the doors open? So insurance and document preparation, it all kind of made sense to me. And so I got into this. I got licensed in 2018. And as I was learning about it and doing the continuing ed classes, and it just got me really to where, I really, like this industry. It's a very a lucrative industry. It's very interesting. You meet all kinds of interesting people. And I've always wanted to be in a position where I can help people and, and educate people. Because when I'm doing taxes, I'm educating you on your taxes, and, letting how much tax liability you have, and what you can do to lower that tax liability. And so I was always doing that, helping people. And there are people who were receptive to my education, and they were, oh yeah, this is, good information. And then there were those who would be blank until I got down to how much their refund was. Then they would light up. But that's all they wanted to hear.
Kind of held in suspense while they're waiting to see, do I owe or am I getting something back? Right?
Yeah. So when they saw their refund, then they would just, they would come alive at that point. But I just, I like educating people, and I like this format, and then when I, realized, I feel like with insurance, it's so underserved, and it's sometimes it has a negative connotation to it, when, like I was in the auto insurance industry, and, people would call, they were upset because they were in a car accident, and so, and maybe the insurance company would pay the whole thing, maybe not, or maybe they got into a car accident and they realized that the day of the accident, their policy had lapsed, they weren't paying on it, or whatever happened, and then they got into this car accident, and now it's, we can't cover it, you know what I'm saying? So it was always that, the people were upset for some reason or another, and so, but I still see this as a viable industry, and a place where you can, you can learn, you can, because I tell you, when I take those money laundering courses, I learn a whole lot, because money laundering is, it's very, it's a very, the insurance industry is really vulnerable to money laundering. And it's really interesting learning about it, how it works, the ins and outs, what to look for, and things like that. So I like that kind of stuff. And I like doing paperwork, calling the carriers and getting to know them and getting the ins and out, doing those webinars. I like all that kind of stuff. It may seem boring to other people, but I like learning, I like
all the stuff that tax professionals find fun. This is
right. Doing that research and stuff. I have a bunch of tax books and everything. So I like doing that kind of stuff.
It's awesome. Hey, look, I want to go back. So just to go back, when you mentioned Rory and Andrea, for those who don't know who she's referring to Rory K. Douglas. If you're on TikTok and Instagram, you had to have seen him talking about financial literacy or financial education. I mean, he is one of the top and most respected sources for that information on the internet. And then Andrea is his wife and business partner as well. So no, incredible people, and incredible to have them as close mentors as well,
Yeah.
What is that? I mean, what what is it? What does that mean? That takes me in a different direction, because there's other things you said I want to touch on, i.e., even being a tax professional in this space, and the processes that come after that. But what does it mean to have strong mentorship in the organization, and coming from a corporate background where you work for an insurance company, or you work for a healthcare company,
right?
And then going over to say, okay, I'm going to become an agent, from a licensing standpoint. How important was the mentorship in that? And before you even go to that, tell me, what was the thing that, I guess, flipped the switch for you to say, hey, I'd rather do this on this side versus on this side? And
well,
then,
I was kind of at this crossroads in my life where I either was going to jump in and be an entrepreneur full time, or I was just going to stay in corporate America. And I knew that if I stayed in corporate America, I wasn't going to be happy. And I'm at an age where I have more days behind me than in front of me. And I've always been in this start and stop mentality. I would start something and everything's cool, going great, and then I'll hit a wall, and then I just retreat back to what's comfortable, which is finding a job, corporate America. And so at the time I was working like 10 hours a day, and I was really just exhausted. And I just thought to myself, am I going to do this forever, or am I going to, just jump into this industry and work it full time? Because I'm giving corporate America 10 hours a day of my time. And so should I give them 10 hours or give myself the 10 hours? So I decided to just bet on myself. And I planned it really kind of strategically. And I had a conversation with my husband, of course, and I set some things in place, for the leave. And so, I just, I did it. I burned the boat. And now I'm in it. I don't have a plan B. I'm just working my plan A. And I'm
financial B.
Right. Right, you're right. The B, but yeah, and I don't regret my decision at all. I really don't. Now, I will be honest. There are some times where I'm kind of like, ooh, but that, I just kind of do my self-care work, and I push forward.
Absolutely. No, I love the vulnerability, with that too, because, a lot of times when people see others who are in this business, right? And a lot of times when people are talking about the business, they speak about it from a standpoint of all the successes and all the great things that can happen, but not necessarily about, some of the hardships. And look, you really got to have your mindset right, because there's a lot of ebbs and flows, well, and just like it's easy to get started, it's easy to quit too, So
right.
that's why I wanted to kind of lean on the mentorship piece. Like how important is it to have like some strong mentorship, some strong coaching, in your business?
It's really, really important. I highly recommend having a mentor, because they hold you accountable, but then also you can go to them and talk about your frustrations and the ebbs and flows of the business, like you were saying, because really, like, you could talk to, like, your friends and family and whatnot, but a lot of times most of your friends and family are in corporate America, so they don't really understand the mindset that you have to have as being an entrepreneur and having your own business, whereas your mentor, they're in the industry that you are in, so they will be able to guide you and kind of talk you down off the ledge, and they won't allow you to quit. You know, you may be getting to that point where, you know what, I'm just going to throw in the towel. And then they're the ones kind of reeling you back in to say, reminding you of your why. Why are you in this to begin with? And having a strong why is also crucial to, you know, to having, you know, your own business. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in. You know, if you're out here selling lollipops on the corner, you got to have a strong why, because it may be days where people aren't going to buy your lollipops. You know what I'm saying? So you got to have a strong why. You got to have a mentor, and you got to be plugged in, be around the people who are like-minded.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are, you know, from a mindset component, I think that's so important. I mean, one of the things about the insurance industry, financial services, the mentorship component is not only are you learning about, you know, legislation or products or solutions that you can, you know, bring to your clients, but you're also getting a lot of personal development as well. And in addition to the professional development, what are some of the mindset kind of tips or tools, or what kind of mindset do you think is required to really, you know, sustain and be successful in this business?
Well, you got to be consistent, and you have to be able to starve your distractions. Now, for me, I always say I'm a work in progress, because the personal development is just an ongoing thing. It's daily, it's monthly, it's yearly, it's hourly, it's ongoing. You never get to the point where you say, you know what, I done learned all that I could learn. I'm good. I got everything under control, because that's, you know, that's not the case. You're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days, but you gotta stay positive. You gotta stay consistent, and it's all about planting seeds. Like, you may meet with a client, and you may not close that client that day. You may not get any business that day, but you planted seeds, right? And so you have to follow up. And I know that I'm working on this with my follow-up game, because I gotta get that down. That follow-up is so crucial. And it's, you know, that's all part of it, you know, following up, being consistent, and doing the same thing over and over and over again. And so then that way, you know, people will remember you. So if you're on social media and you're doing videos, you gotta be, you know, all on point, you know, like, you know, if you're gonna do videos, you know, like, I'll record 10 videos and then schedule them, and then I'll have them come out, you know, on a daily basis. And that takes discipline, you know, and it takes, and just being an entrepreneur, you got to be disciplined, you got to be focused, and you got to be consistent. I would say those are the three top things that you got to really master and become good at. And it's not gonna be something that's gonna occur overnight. You know what I mean? Because I'll tell you, I've been in this business since 2018, and I still have to work at being disciplined, being focused, you know, being consistent, because there's so many distractions all around. You know, I have a son, he's 25. I have he has a cat. I just got a puppy. I got a husband. You know, everybody needs attention. You know what I mean? And then even so, like, it's funny, because I will be like in my office for hours, you know, getting in work, and then I'll have to say to myself, you know what, I need to go check on my husband. I got to make sure he all right. You know, he just got off work. I got to see about him. You know what I mean? So, because I don't want nothing to fall through the cracks. So I always go back to discipline, focus, and consistency.
Discipline, focus, and consistency. Those are nuggets right there. Those are jewels. You know? So, you know, you mentioned, you mentioned the balance of all things, right?
Yeah.
Even experiencing, the peaks and valleys, what this business brings. What keeps you motivated? Like what is it that that hits the trigger, or that hits the gas pedal for you, where when you're in a space where you're like, hey, I don't know, and it kind of brings you back on track, brings you back to your focus, back to your why?
Well, I would say when I think about my family, and I think about, my mother, my grandmother, and especially my mother, because my mother she she lives in a senior facility, and she's an active senior, but she's still working, she's working part-time and everything. And I really want to give her like a better life in her golden years. I want to I want to give her a better life. And I want to break that cycle of poverty in my family. Like I said, we had entrepreneurs in our family, but they didn't really understand how money works. And so they made a lot of financial decisions that weren't the best. And, they wind up, passing away broke, or they're, in a situation where they don't have, any long-term care, so they had to liquidate their assets to be able to afford to live in a senior facility, and then too, I want to retire my husband. He's been with the post office for a lot of years, and I would, I want to retire him, so he can, we can enjoy life together, and then I have this vision. I want this retirement house where I have enough room for my mother to come and live, where she can just, relax and, drink her wine and sit outside and just, enjoy life. I'm just a firm believer in enjoying life, because life is really, really short. And if we're in this, we're in this rat race where we're just, it's work 9 to 5, get off work. And when you're off work, you're so drained, where it just takes all of your energy, and I'm not saying anything about, bad about corporate America, no, but at the same time, I spent years, I've been working since I was 17 years old. My first job was flipping burgers at Burger King, right? At $3.35 an hour, you know what I mean? Back in the 90s. I'm aging myself, but I don't care. But it's true, because and I've been working ever since. And it's like, okay, what do you have? Everything when you talk about taxes, the tax code is set up for investors and business owners, and even though it's, tax evasion is illegal, yes, but avoiding taxes is not, and the people who can take advantage of those loopholes, those little, all of those little nuggets that the tax code has, are business owners and investors. So you're kind of, I don't want to say you're kind of screwed, but at the same time, you're paying more taxes when you work a 9 to 5 job. You may love your job and you may make great money, but at the end of the day, you're not keeping all of your money, because you're giving it all, to the IRS. You know what I'm saying? So I don't, I want the quality of life. I want to be able to get up and go. If I want to go to Cancun tomorrow, it's just a matter of me packing a bag. I want that kind of flexibility, instead of, oh, okay, well, I gotta get my vacation time, and I only got 2 weeks, or I only got 3 weeks. So then I gotta, it's all this plotting and planning, when you could just say, let's make a reservation. All right, let's go. You know what I mean? And I want to experience being able to fly in a private jet. I just want that experience. I want to be able to just get on the plane, forget about security, just go right to the plane and get on and just go. I just want to experience that at least once in my life, so that's what I like to do. That's what I want to, that's what I get out of it.
That's very accessible for you. That's right. That's right there. You mentioned something. You mentioned something earlier. And before we go there, like so it sounds like really the whys, like every time if there is a down period, you're going back to those whys. You're going back to your mother and your husband and the things that you still desire to do. You say, okay, that's what's going to drive me to push forward, another day, to keep building, to make that next call, to take that next appointment, to talk to the next new agent that I'm helping to train. It's remembering the why. That's kind of basically what what it goes back to. You mentioned the tax code, right? You mentioned something about taxes, and you also mentioned realizing the familiarity, not familiarity, but the similarities or the synergy of a tax business and an insurance business. Yeah. I wanted to know if you could kind of speak to that, because there are tax professionals that kind of focus on that a few times a year. And I always say, look, if you're going to do taxes, then you should just have your insurance license too, because they kind of go together. Can you speak, how do those two things fit together in your mind? What was the correlation that you made?
Well, I saw it as it's all part of the financial industry. It's all under that umbrella. Now, I chose life insurance, but then there's also, you under that life insurance umbrella, you also have, retirement strategies, annuities and things like that. And then, final expense, like I'm sitting down with the client and doing their taxes, and I see that they have, dependents, they have small children. Well, I could introduce them to an IUL for college savings, or I have a client who's nearing retirement, and they don't know what to do, with their money, I can, okay, well, hey, maybe you should think about looking at putting your money in this annuity, and then I can, educate from there. So with the taxes, you have a lot of information from with the client. That they work, they work a job, or they may, they have children, they have a spouse. So you get a lot of information from that, tax client, and then you can, while you're discussing their finances, their tax liability, and you can segue into, well, do you have insurance? Did you know that, you can have, a tax-free retirement, or you can save for your children's college tax-free, so these are the kinds of conversations that I'm having with clients when it comes down, during this tax season, because then, especially like if I see that they're paying a lot of money in taxes, they're making a lot of money on their job, I can, I'll even suggest, well, maybe you should, start a business to offset, these taxes. Then you won't owe so much, because if you have a business, you can have tax write-offs, because they may have grown children, right, where they're not, because the thing about the child tax credit is that when your child turns 16, going into 17, you don't qualify for that anymore. Your child is too old, even though they're still living in your house, you're still providing, for them. You lose that when they turn 17. But then if you have a business and you hire them as your employees, now you can, now you have some write-offs. So I just kind of, I kind of weave it all in when I'm, when I'm, talking to them about their taxes.
Absolutely. And she said IUL earlier. That's Indexed Universal Life, by the way.
Yes.
And for a tax refund, a great way to fund that on an annual premium. Like take that refund and just fund that policy right away.
Right.
No, excellent. No, so you've had a lot of experiences, a lot of career and professional experiences. Let me ask you, how would you describe your life before getting licensed versus after getting licensed? And really, what I'm really asking, what I want you to think about is, how do you think being licensed has changed you as a person, if at all?
It has changed me because I'm thinking differently. I move differently in terms of my mindset. I think it shifted my mindset from employee to entrepreneur. And I kind of had put my entrepreneurial spirit kind of like on the back burner because I was busy, in the rat race, just, focused on working. Whereas this getting my license, it kind of awakened that entrepreneurial person inside of me, and it kind of gave me an opportunity to delve into that into being an entrepreneur again. Because back in the day, I had my own administrative assistant business. I was a virtual assistant, and in those and being being that as an entrepreneur, that was, I was, doing good. But again, I always would, when things got kind of, when money got kind of tight, I kind of went back to what I felt was safe, having a job, right? But this time I am just pushing through all of those fears, pushing through all of the negativity, pushing through the no's, and instead of just curling up in a ball and saying I can't do it and throwing in the towel, I'm pushing through it. And again, it goes back to having a strong mentor, having a strong why, and not wanting to, go back to where I was before.
So that sounds like it's kind of increased your tenacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then too, I just, because I see this industry as lucrative and educational, and I just know that I can, I can really make a difference in somebody's life and through this industry, whether it's giving them an opportunity to, to join me and my team, or, just educating them on a policy,
Absolutely. I was just saying, you already have that.
Yeah.
It's already done. So what's the end game for Lady T? What's the big picture at this point? Like when it's all said and done, because I've heard you talk about, what you're building for yourself. What does that final vision look like when you've accomplished what your impact is going to be in this business?
I want to build a book of business, and I want to build it to where I can sell it and then kind of just retire and have my retirement house, and just spend the rest of my life just traveling and spending. I mean, I want to build a book of business where I can be able to sell it and then, just retire.
She's looking for the exit strategy, right?
Right.
I got you. No, listen, as we've discussed, it's like that equity and ownership is the way, to get to that place. Even working in the business day in and day out, you still have the opportunity to do well, but being able to have that big event certainly is a game changer, and a lot of people don't know that. Like, a lot of people don't even really think about that, in their business, that they're going to become independently wealthy just by working in the business and building it organically on a day-to-day basis, when the reality is that wealth is typically going to come when you exit out of the business.
Yeah.
So no, I love that. So for someone who is joining the industry, maybe they're on the fence, kind of what kind of guidance, what kind of words would you share with them, someone who is maybe thinking about getting into this business?
Well, I would say that it's a rewarding business, and I would say that I would say to get in, to get your license, and don't give up, especially if you take the test and you don't pass it the first time. I always tell people to take it again. It took me 2 times, to pass the test, but I would say, to don't give up, and to really give it a chance. It's not gonna, happen overnight where you're gonna, just be making, tons of money, overnight. It takes time, just like any other business. You gotta nurture it. You gotta, plant your seeds, and you gotta keep trudging on, and, keep on plugging in, and yeah, I would say just, get in and don't give up. And just, you gotta go in with 2 feet. Oh, what was that?
What'd you just say?
I said you gotta go in with both feet.
With both feet. I was just going back to what you said with discipline, focus, and consistency.
Yeah, that too.
To it with that, and you made a really good point by saying you got to give it time. Don't think that you're instantly going to come in and all of a sudden you're on top of the world, and you're on social media and you made it. It doesn't work that way. It is a process, whether you're an agent or whether you're a client. Resolutions.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'll tell you a quick story. Like, my insurance guy, where we have our homeowners insurance and stuff, he was an Allstate agent, and he passed away. And he was so cool. He was an older gentleman. He lived like down the street from my house. And when he passed away, his wife was able to sell his business. And she was able to, she moved to Florida and, was doing her thing, but she was able to sell his business, and so that's the thing. When you have a book of business, you pass away, it's something that your family could either take it and take it to the next level, or they could sell it and and have some money. Yeah. To do whatever it is that they want to do. But it's something tangible that you could pass down. That's my point. It's something tangible that you could pass on to your loved ones. So that's again, right. Generational wealth.
And if you don't have a business, at least get you some life insurance. So
exactly.
As well. Or if you got the business, you can have some life insurance too. You can have some key man insurance. You can have a lot of different things. You talk
right. Right.
Hook you up. You got the tax element and the insurance element all together. So
yeah.
So speaking of, if someone wants to get in contact with you, they want to talk to Lady T, the financial B. They want to either get some insight on maybe a solution for themselves, or maybe they want to connect with you. They join your team, work with you. I know that you are helping to educate and guide other new agents kind of as they come and kind of leverage your experiences to help them in their career. How do we get in contact with you? How do we reach you?
Well, you can go to my website, www.YSGAL, Lady T, that's LADEETEE.net. And I'm on Instagram, The Financial B, that's THEE Financial B. And I'm on TikTok, The Financial B, THE Financial B. And then I'm on Facebook as well, Tina M. Carter.
On Facebook, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You got all the socials, got the website as well.
Yeah.
To get in contact with Tina Carter, aka Lady T, the Financial B. Tina, thank you so much for taking some time to share your story, share some insights, drop those nuggets on discipline, focus, and consistency, and the blending of taxes and insurance, bringing them together. If you're a CPA listening, if you're a bookkeeper listening, you need to go ahead and get your license. So I hope this has been informative to all of you that have been listening. I know it was, and hopefully you have been inspired and heard something that made you think to yourself, you should get a license. Until the next time, take care.